One of the useful features of Probe for EPMA is the ability to save setups. In this quick video we're going to go through what the different types of setups are, why they're useful, and to give some examples. When you start a new sample setup, you'll see that there are several setup types. First there's the element setup. This is individual element configurations which are stored in a central setup.mdb, so these are available from any database. Then there's sample setup and file setup. These are similar in that they save a complete analysis configuration. The difference is that sample setup gives you access to configurations which are saved in the current analysis database, whilst file setup gives you access to analysis configurations saved in all of your databases. And finally, multiple setups allows you to load several setups for multi-condition analyses. So why are these setups useful? Well, we've already seen examples in previous videos of multi-condition analyses, such as multi-voltage analyses for thin film analysis and combining low beam currents and high beam currents to do major and trace element analyses. But we can also store complex multi-element setups. For example, if we have complex silicates with 10, 15 or so elements, and we can easily switch between different mineral types in a single rock sample, or have pre-stored settings so that we can consistently and reliably use the same settings either ourselves or between different people. In this example, I've set up analyses for a pyroxene analysis. So here we have a list of 10 elements, and I've gone through and I've peaked the elements, and I've found the best background positions, and if we look at the standard assignments we can see that I've also set some interference corrections. I've then done several iterations until I've got what I think is my optimum analysis condition. And it's useful for me to be able to save that. Now, we've seen in previous videos that we can just click Add to Sample Setups, and that'll add it to the list of setups available in this database. Below that button is another one called Save Setups, and if we hover over that, we see that it saves all the element setups to the element setup database. And it will automatically just add all 10 elements. Another way to get to a similar position is if we click on the elements and cations, we can see we've got Save Element Setup there and Save Sample Setup here. The Save Sample Setup does the same as the Add to Sample Setups. But here if we click the Element Setup, it then gives us a list of each of the individual elements. And we can select one or any of these and click Add to Database, and it'll then add that data. Now, because this data has been calibrated, it also adds the standard intensity data. Now, whilst we're in this database, obviously that setup is now available to be reused. So, for example, if we then wanted to go off and do some garnet analyses or some olivine analyses with a different setup and then return to the pyroxenes, we wouldn't have to type all of these values in again by hand. We could just go to Acquire, a new sample setup, and load a sample setup. Now, if we did want to do, say, a garnet analysis and we wanted to use some of these elements again, we could go to the Load Element Setups, and we can then pick individual elements and add those to the sample run as individual elements. Now, the benefit of using the file setup is if we then close this database and we start a completely new one, I'll just give it a default name, just click OK. And we go to Acquire. Now, say we wanted to set up a pyroxene analysis again, or we have a student who's come in who wants to do some pyroxene analyses. If we go to New Sample Setup, currently there's no setups in this database. However, if we go to the Load File Setup, here we can see that we have a list of previous projects, and the previous project I had was, I called it Setup Library, and you can see the list of setups, and here we have pyroxene analysis with our list of elements, and if we click OK, and you have the option to load the standard intensity data which was acquired at that time. So if you've done this setup recently, that might be valid to still do that. But if it was done a long time ago, you might not want to load those calibrations and recalibrate yourself. So I'll say no there. And we click OK. And now when we look at the elements and cations, all our elements are there. If we go to the analytical conditions, it's set the analytical conditions. I'll cancel that so it doesn't try and set them again. And if you go to the standard assignments, it's even carried over the interference corrections. So that's the value of using setups, both file and sample setups and element setups.